What's going on, guys? It's your boy LQ, Mr. Real Deal Fantasy HQ, fire content only. Here today to talk about 3 dynasty running backs that you should be targeting. These guys you should have at least on your radar. Might go ahead and throw an offer out there. Just shoot your shot, shoot, and you may end up getting these guys to be a nice addition on your roster. You might be hitting early on a guy that is on the rise to just wreak havoc for the 2022 fantasy football season. So I don't want to waste any more time, so let's get right into the episode. So, off season is here. Dynasty leagues are starting up. We are here for that fire content only. So, it feels good to be back, by the way. This is literally, the first couple of videos that I've been back, and I've been able to get the rust off and get back into motion to where I'm just dropping content constantly. Good to be back. The little break that I had, man, was great. Been able to spend some time with the family, just get my mind right and didn't focus on the 9 to 5, of course. But here we are for dynasty content. 3 running backs that I feel as though you guys should be targeting. Let me just name them off. Raheem Mostert, Rashad Penny, and Devonta Foreman. These 3 guys need to be on your radar to bring them in because, again, we just had an entire fantasy season with ups, downs, handcuffing, and guys just going down with injuries, COVID. Oh, my God, Jesus. So we just need to be cautious. We need to get depth pieces, and these guys need to be on your rosters. Now, let me start off with Rashad Penny, man. It is crazy to see in a 4-week span that he outscored guys like Austin Eckler, Jonathan Taylor, Aaron Jones, Zeke. Seeing these names and seeing Rashad Penny being an RB1 for those amount of weeks, 4 weeks in a row, it's like, whoa. What's going on? I mean, Rashad Penny, his story hasn't been easy. Dealt with injury, constantly being pushed back in the depth chart, touches getting, basically given to DJ Dallas, guys like that. But this season was something different, man. I felt like he was a little bit hungry. He proved me wrong because, again, I was on the timeline ripping his ass as well. But, hey, he finally got his opportunity. He's been able to just show up and show out and showcase what he actually can do. Trust me, there's a lot of people out there that knew his talent, going to the Seahawks, that he can be a vital, piece to the offense. But now he's coming up, not sure of his future there in Seattle, but I think Seattle brings him back. With Chris Carson, his season ended early with a neck injury. It's kind of like, oh, well, they do need a guy that's been able to showcase that he can handle the RB1 workload. And I think Rashad Penny is the guy. So I honestly think they bring him back. They definitely do bring him back. Let's not say that, that you're thinking about it. I definitely think he comes back. I feel as though it's a good spot for him. With Chris Carson, that neck injury, that's nothing to be, played with. That can literally end his entire career. So I feel as though he will come back, but he's not going to come back as that RB2 that we know and love and been able to steal in drafts, really, for him to, have this neck injury. So his time may be gone, but Rashad Penny time going into his next season may be this season where we can get, a low-end RB1 week to week. So I'm not saying that the Seahawks are going to be great because Pete Carroll's in the hot seat, Russell Wilson thinking about trade. So we don't know what that's going to look like. But the point is to go get Rashad Penny. It's a proven running back that can give us RB1 weeks, that he can give us a 100-yard game, that he can find the end zone, targets out of the backfield, etc. He can be an all-around good running back. So I feel as though going to get him right now, you can throw somebody at third. You could throw somebody at second, whatever draft picks you feel comfortable, because I'm not here to dictate to say what your league mates are willing to give up. So that's something I can't, foresee. But again, your league mates, the vibe, what your tendencies and what your league mate tendencies are, hopefully, because you're in the dynasty league, so you've been playing with them for a while. But whatever, moving on. So I feel as though, Rashad Penny, he'll be a good depth piece. He'll be a guy that can be on your bench or he can be your potential starter. It can go either way. So you're buying now in January just to get ahead of it. So he may have a market. Let's just say for some weird reason he ends up a San Francisco 49er, or he ends up on a team like the Dolphins, because all these teams are in market. If, they have 3 to 4, running backs hitting the market, especially the Bucs. So I feel as though, Rashad Penny could find his way somewhere. There's a lot of teams that are losing running backs that either A, don't want to bring back, or B, don't have the money to pay them. So that's usually how it goes. So Rashad Penny should definitely be a guy you pick up. So I want to touch on Raheem Mostert. Now you're probably thinking, oh, why would I buy this guy? He's always hurt. But let's just remember who Raheem Mostert is. He's a very talented running back when healthy. I know we all remember 2019, those 6 weeks he found the end zone back to back weeks, 6 weeks in a row. He found the end zone. He won a lot of fantasy championships. So we have to give his respect. He's been able to show he can do the job, he can get it done, he can score touchdowns, he can catch the ball, and he's hella fast. So I feel as though he does have a market, believe it or not. I don't think he's returning back to the 49ers, but that's why it's a buy low situation right now for Raheem Mostert. You can throw a third round, or you could throw whatever. You could throw the lowest tier, guy on your roster, because he's the forgotten one right now. Nobody's really thinking about, Raheem Mostert entering their roster. A lot of people are passing like, no, I'm good. He's going to be injured next year, blah, blah, blah. He has a market. All these teams, like I named before when I was talking about, basically, Rashad Penny. You have the Bucks, you have the Dolphins, you have these teams that are in the market looking for running backs because they have 3 to 4 running backs that are gone. So I feel as though, he could end up a Seahawk, he could end up, anywhere. He could be a Jet, or he could be a Dolphin, whatever the case may be. He still has a market. Somebody needs a running back right now, and they need a talented running back like Raheem Mostert. I feel as though he'll come back. He'll take, the bare minimum money, and he'll find a way to show up and show out some way relevant in fantasy football. So I would not be looking to just fade him completely. If you can get him for cheap, and I'm talking cheap, man. If you get him dirt cheap, close to nothing, I don't see why not, man. Raheem Mostert is that guy that we saw be able to burst out for a 20-yard run, or burst out and run into the house and take it to the house. It's unfortunate that he is injury prone, that he keeps getting these injuries, these bumps and bruises, that's keeping him off the field. Because if we're going to be honest with ourselves, Raheem Mostert was the clear-cut best running back on that roster when we looked at it in camp. He was the best running back on that roster. We're looking at Jeff Wilson, and we're looking at, Hasty and Elijah Mitchell and all this other stuff going into the offseason. But Jeff Wilson was being drafted as high as the 6th round, and that was before Raheem Mostert, because people were just being cautious with basically the injury, which is fine. So you're going to be able to get Raheem Mostert dirt cheap right now. So why not? Shoot your shot. Let's get this depth, because again, running backs, how many running backs did we see go down with injuries, and we were left with rosters with a freaking Mike Davis and a Devontae Booker, or Alex Collins? Like, these were lineups that were real lineups that people were going into with week to week. So I feel as though getting a dirt cheap guy, this is a depth piece that we know can explode, we know can score, we know can play. When we have guys like Devontae Booker or Alex Collins sitting in our starting lineup, we didn't know what the hell they can do. We didn't know anything about these guys. We just had to go pick them up because we lost Saquon Barkley, or we we lost Chris Carson. You know what I mean? Like, these were situational things. So I feel as though getting depth pieces, this would be my number one assignment going into this next season. I need guys that can show up and show up, who have in the past showed up and showed out, and be able to be on my starting lineup and put up fantasy points. That's all important. Obviously, where they go, where these guys go, where they land will dictate, their week to week production. But again, I'm willing to throw the shot. I'm willing to shoot my shot with a low cheap ball, and I end up getting them for basically dirt cheap and basically for nothing. And I'm sitting pretty with depth. Wide receivers are deep. They're going to be deep because there's going to be guys year after year that come out of the draft, or guys that are finally in the development stage where they're ready for the breakout. Those, though, wide receivers are everywhere. They're deep. They can give you 13 points per game. That's nothing. That's a given. That's like guys that are like base model to do that for you. So I feel as though, you need to get the running back depth, because these are the guys that are going to be used all around, catches, heavily used in the red zone and stuff like that. So get these depth pieces. So Raheem Mostert, go get him now. Now, last but not least, Devonta Foreman. I feel as though the Titans need to bring him back. I feel as though this is me buying him based on the Titans bringing him back as Derrick Henry's backup, because we already know that the Titans are going to run the ball. Now, Henry's returning back with a foot injury. Apparently, he's good to go right now in the playoffs, but fingers crossed that, he's good to go 100% and no setbacks. Please, no setbacks for Derrick Henry. It was a huge loss for me in one of my leagues, man. I was in pain. I had no other depth pieces. But here we are. We're talking about Devonta Foreman. Now, he's a good depth piece. I feel as though he's an easy third round pick that you could trade for. I feel as though you can get a Devonta Foreman for a cheap on the low end of it, but a lot of people are like me that are believers. I mean, he had 3 100-yard games, and I feel as though he's been proving himself to take on that RB1 workload. It was a slow start, slow start. They were experimenting to see what's going on, but now Foreman just took the starting job for the rest of the season and just ran away with it, literally. So I feel as though now we're looking at a situation where he needs to get paid. I feel like he could easily be a starter. He could be a starter for the Dolphins, for the Bucks, and Seattle. Again, all these teams that are looking for running backs. And I would love him on the 49ers, but then that'll hurt my Elijah Mitchell, fans out there, truthers, and hurt my shares as well. But Deontay Foreman needs to be a starter. He's always been a guy that I felt as though deserved the starting job. Like when he came to Houston, it was unfortunate he had an ACL, tear in 2017, and then 2019 the Texans let him go for bad training habits and being late to meetings. That just didn't help his case for really much of to showcase his talent. So the Achilles, definitely set him back. I know I said ACL, but it was his Achilles actually. But he's definitely a guy that I feel like researched his career and he earned himself, earned his spot to have a starting job, or the Titans just bless him to bring him back once again for a backup job for Derrick Henry. Feels though they need a guy that can take some of that workload off of Derrick Henry, because we're seeing guys like Derrick Henry, CMC, Saquon Barkley that have that high 75% to 90%, usage and snap opportunity. So ever since CMC has been that 90%, snap opportunity, he hasn't been the same since. He's been getting injured back-to-back seasons. So that's something just to keep in the back of your mind. I think a lot of teams are moving towards this 1-2 punch, which is actually working. Like we're seeing it with Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams. We're seeing with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt and et cetera. I feel as though the 1-2 punch is something that teams are transitioning to just so they can keep their running backs fresh. Fresh legs ain't nothing wrong with if you got a talented backup. So shout out to the Browns, basically putting that in stone, like it works. So feels though teams like, the Rams, my Rams, with Cam Akers and Sony Michelle, that would be such a great 1-2 punch. Like it's literally like the most beautiful thing I saw going against the Cardinals with both of them guys. So feels though, with Devonta Foreman coming back, that would be such a great comeback story for him to earn himself a spot, for like, let's say like a 2-year contract, you know what I mean? Just to have him there as Derrick Henry's backup, just in case anything happens. Because if Derrick Henry does have any setbacks during camp or over the summer or even the first couple of weeks of the season, you have Foreman sitting there ready to go and be able to show up and show out. Like I said, he had 3 100-yard games to the back end of the season, and he wasn't there long as the starter. So I definitely think, Foreman will be a nice depth piece to have on your roster. Again, none of these guys are going to be fantasy starters right out the gate. These guys are going to be ready to show up and show out when their name is called, when you're dealing with COVID, because COVID ain't going nowhere. I'm telling you, COVID's going nowhere, and COVID's been the number one thing to take a lot of these fantasy teams out, because guys are just looking at it like, man, what do? I don't have anybody on the wire. There's nobody out there I could trade for. You need to just get these guys early so you're not sitting in the situation. I feel as though my wide receivers were like basically flawless across majority of my leagues. Like, yeah, some dealt with COVID, like Keenan Allen, or, like the situation with Calvin Ridley. Like, yeah, those things happen, of course, but I feel as though there's a lot more deeper wide receivers out there. Like losing Robert Woods was huge for a lot of teams out there. And I feel as though, guys that had the depth at wide receiver, guys that got, Amon Ross St. Brown, and got like Cooper Kupp, for cheap and stuff like that, or even got Jamar Chase, they took the dip, you're going to be fine. You know what I mean? There's always going to be guys like that. There's rookies coming out of the draft. I like this wide receiver class. I definitely feel as though you're going to be able to find the next guy that's going to be able to put up, huge points for you late in the rounds for wide receivers. So running backs, you got to get the depth. You got to have them ready. And I feel as though, you'll see a difference in your team, week to week when, you get the reports of injuries or get the reports of COVID. That's what's really important, to just have these depth pieces. So these 3 guys, Raheem Mostert, Rashad Penny, and Deontay Foreman, are 3 guys that you can get for dirt cheap, man. You can get them because there's a lot of questions going around them. All 3 of them are actually going to be free agents, you know what I mean? And all 3 of them have markets. They all showed up and showed out at some point of their career. Really, it's just Mostert I'm talking about at that point. But I feel as though Penny and, basically Devonta Foreman have proven that they deserve contracts. Pay the man. So those are three guys that I feel as though you need to go target right now in your dynasty leagues. And I feel as though you can get them for cheap, man. A lot of people aren't going to be like asking for an arm and a leg for these guys. You might get them for even cheaper than what I'm expecting for you to get them for. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment below on what you guys think. And make sure you guys sign up today at prizepicks.com using promo code FCO. And they're matching up to $100. That's free money, man. You put in 50, you get 50. You put in 100, you get 100. It's free money. I mean, I've done it, and I basically paid the gas bill. I paid, mortgage. Like, these are real things happening when I use prizepicks.com. It's the most flawless betting site out there, and I love that you're able to use fantasy points, man. That's what's so great. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the episode, and I'll see you guys next week for another great episode of Real Deal Fantasy HQ with your boy LQ. Peace.